Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're working on this Echo SRM 225. Now, she won't start, and I know it's been sitting at least 3 months because it's been hanging on my rack that long. And so we're going to go ahead and rebuild the carburetor, put new fuel lines in her, put a new spark plug in her, and see if we can't get her running. So, all you new people out there, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, and it's what we work for. So, let's get started. Now, how we approach one of these when we work on it, it depends on its history. Now this one's got a mysterious history, so we're going to do a head to toe on it. If it's yours, then you'll already know a few things. You'll know if you ran regular gas in it, which will destroy them completely, and you'll know if it's been, how long it's been sitting, so you'll know where to go. Now it's always a safe bet if it just won't start and has given up on you to rebuild the carburetor or replace the carburetor. This carburetor only costs about $16 to replace, so I'd recommend for most people out there, go ahead and replace it and be done with it. Just throw a new carburetor on, super easy. So for us, we're going to do it the hard way. We're going to rebuild this one. Let's pull it off. Let's do this. Okay, we'll check it for fuel. And you always open the gas cap before you get started on one of these, because when you take the fuel lines off, the pressure in the gas tank will pump fuel back out and you'll make a huge mess. Now for the moment, we're going to pull the fuel lines off. Now they felt really loose. If you look at it, you can see where it's ballooned up, and it's ballooned up to the shape of this. So it's going to be a leaker when you put it back together. This is always the return line. The black one is always the incoming fuel line on an Echo. So let's pull our carburetor apart and see what we got going inside. When you start doing this part, make lots of notes, take lots of pictures. Notice how I'm using my thumb to pull this cover out. That's because you can't get to the screw unless you move it. And the other two are pretty easy to get to. Well, that is if they're in good shape. That screw is pretty bashed up, so it's not in very good shape. And, you know, when I look at this carburetor, it's actually got a dent right here. So goodness knows what's going on with it. So next thing we're going to do is go ahead and replace it. We don't trust it if it's bashed up like that. Now, a lot of people give you these long lectures about aftermarket carburetors, but I've been using them for years. And if you're good at ordering them, then they work fine. The people that are lecturing you and saying how bad aftermarket carburetors are usually don't know how to order the correct one. So we're going to pull the spark plug out and look inside and determine if this thing's worth spending money on. If it's had regular fuel, we're going to see black marks inside the cylinder. See, the plug looks pretty okay. It looks as expected. And it's not a cheapo plug, it's an NGK. So next up, let's look inside. Okay, that took a second. Let's take a look at our cylinder. Okay, our piston looks super clean. If we look around our walls, it doesn't look all that great, but it doesn't look completely done either. This might have seen a little bit of regular gas. That's what you see when you get the walls that look like that. That's going to be right around the muffler hole. Okay, that wants me to buy the premium version, and we're probably not gonna. So let's put a new plug in it and a little bit of starter fluid in it and see if she kicks. Okay, we're going with the Champion 859, which is the RCJ7Y. This actually has a sticker on it recommending the NGK, but I found these Champions just run these little Echoes perfectly. And I can run a slightly colder plug and still get the same performance. Okay, don't tighten it up too tight. There we go, let's give her a run. Make sure our switch is on. You can hit the throttle if you want, but you're not going to do much. And you heard it kick. Okay, now we know that it's got enough compression to run, and even though it's a little bit burned up on the cylinder, it's okay. So let's get a carburetor for it. We had to wait a couple of days for the parts, but now that we've got the carburetor, what we're going to do is take it and compare it to the old one and make sure that every single hole matches up all the way around. And you can see they're completely identical. So we know we're good to go with this. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and do the fuel lines on this one because they feel a little old. Okay, you're set up nicely. So we'll pop this out with a screwdriver. And notice I'm pulling away from the hole. You don't want to cram it in the hole like this because what it'll do is it'll tear the plastic up and then you'll never get a good seal. A little harder to do it this way. Whoops. But it's the best way to go. Let's pull a couple of lines out. That usually makes it a little easier to pop out. And there it goes. See, when we look at it, it didn't look that bad. We probably could have gotten away with this one, but we have a new set to go anyway, so we might as well use it. So now getting it in can be a little bit tedious sometimes. So the first thing we'll do is get it wet with oil. And you might get a couple of drips in your gas, but a couple of drips aren't going to make much difference. So now we just walk it around. Walk it around. Walk it around. And I've done this quite a few times. It's not as easy as it looks here, and it doesn't look easy here. Okay, we got all but this one little spot. So now let's try to push her in. Now, she's almost there. We just missed that time. Nudge, 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 and in she goes. I said in she goes. This one's fighting us just a little bit, and that's pretty normal. As many as we've done, I think I've had 2 or 3 of them just click right in. And the rest of them act like this all the way. Yep. Okay, we got a good run on this one. So let's see if we can get her the rest of the way in. Trying to do this at an angle where the camera can see it makes it even harder. Okay, where are we at? Looks like we're one little notch away. See that one little notch? Okay, come on, one little notch. And there we go. And it's nice and tight. You can see we've got an overlap on our vent hole right here. And you need that or she's not going to run when you get her back together. So now while we've got everything apart, I'm going to go ahead and get that hooked. Layer in place. That's close enough. You see, and now we'll use the gasket. I'm sorry, the bolts to hold the gasket on. Come on, buddy. There you go. And that's just about that. We'll grab our little handy screw gun. Oops. Put our T27 on. Now we know we've got the right bolts because these are the bolts that came out of it. There we go. That's a lot of work for a little orange lever. But the carburetor was banged up anyway. I don't see them very often where the carburetors are actually damaged. Now when you're hooking these, normally the return line will be the one closest to this. On the Echoes, it's a little bit different. So we're going to hook the one on here. Duck my head in here. One on here. And we're going to do it the easy way. We're just going to put a little fuel in it. And if it doesn't pump correctly, we'll flip them. There we go, magic fuel fill. Now let's pump up the primer. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yep, and it's going the right direction. That means we're good to go. Okay. Next up is to tighten up the throttle. Make sure she's operating correctly, and she is. And you can adjust your tension on the throttle right here if you need to by loosening the bolts up and retightening them. Okay, we've got her all primed up, so we're going to go full choke. Remember, you cannot flood it by priming it. You can only flood it by leaving the choke on too long. So let's give her a run. Now let's turn the switch on. There you go. After the first run, we turn the choke off. She starts right up. Let's turn off the mute. There you go. Now you can hear her. She sounds nice and steady. Idling just a touch high. That's just a screw in the back. That's one screw. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Some carburetors just don't like to be rebuilt on lawnmowers and weed eaters and whatnot, but the Echo carburetor is an exception. You put a new metering diaphragm in it, put a new fuel gasket in it, and usually they're good to go. Now this one had a ding out of the corner, and it was bashed up pretty good, so I didn't bother with it. And I think we spent, including the airbox, about 30 bucks on it. So all you new people out there, if you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. It's free, and that's what we work for. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.